Tonight, another bombshell report. Vladimir Putin personally ordered the interference into our elections last year, and the White House knew about it 3 months before Election Day. Two big questions. Did President Obama do enough to prevent the attacks and let Americans know? And why isn't President Trump doing anything about it at all? Then action and inaction in Albany and Washington hitting home. Albany's rain check on local taxes could leave cities like Yonkers scrambling. And D.C.'s new push on health care will put new strains on the state. We'll discuss both with Shelley Mayer, Democratic Assembly member representing Yonkers. And later, Trump's imaginary Comey tapes. Is the president just a no-think, no-filter tweeter? And did he just admit to obstructing justice publicly? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. New questions tonight about the actions taken by two different American presidents in the wake of Russia's efforts to influence our elections last year. A new bombshell report from the Washington Post adds to the evidence that the Russians did meddle in the election and did so to benefit the Trump campaign and hurt the presidential bid of Hillary Clinton. And that meddling came all the way from the top. That report's biggest takeaway: that intelligence sent to President Obama last August captured Putin's specific instructions on the operation's audacious objectives to defeat or at least damage the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and help elect her opponent Donald Trump. The order came from Putin. And that report has more than a few people wondering why President Obama didn't do more to expose the Russian attacks or better warn the American public. The Post reporting Obama moved cautiously on the intelligence for three reasons. He was worried Moscow might escalate the conflict. He was worried any action he took might be seen as political interference. And he thought Hillary Clinton would win the election, making a response less urgent. The Post also reports that Obama and his top aides explored some actions but met resistance from some in the administration, including from parts of the intelligence community and from Republican state leaders as they worked to secure their election systems. And then there's the day a trio of Obama intelligence officials tried to enlist the help of leadership in Congress. Quote, the meeting devolved into a partisan squabble. The Dems were, hey, we have to tell the public, recalled one participant, but Republicans resisted, arguing that to warn the public that the election was under attack would further Russia's aim of sapping confidence in the system. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell went further, officials said, voicing skepticism that the underlying intelligence truly supported the White House's claims. Key Democrats were stunned by the GOP response and exasperated that the White House seemed willing to let Republican opposition block any pre-election move. But the question remained, did President Obama mishandle the Russia mess? Should he have done more? Should the public have been better informed? For more, we turn to tonight's panelist, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Shelley Mayer, Democratic Assemblywoman representing Yonkers. And Shelley, let me start with you. I think this is going to go down as the biggest failing of President Obama's presidency, the fact that he did not do enough to warn the American public about this attack on our election system.
I don't agree with you. I think that we're in the period of hindsight. We forget how contentious those moments were. And President Obama, for all his failings, was a cautious, thoughtful, careful person who did not want to escalate what was already so partisan and so divisive by appearing to basically openly side with Hillary's campaign and subject to the attack that he was using inside intelligence to help her. And I think he took a cautious path. He tried, obviously, internally to get some things done and was unable to do so. But I think it's very much, looking in the back mirror to now say that he made these terrible mistakes. He made a judgment call. Was it right? I'm not sure. But I certainly, given the way this president operates, would not say that a thoughtful, careful, and respectful approach can be criticized.
Thoughtful, careful, respectful, perhaps too much so, Dominic. I saw you were nodding with the Assemblywoman as she was saying. You agree?
He likes to agree with me.
Yes, Assemblywoman, I do. I concur with every point that the Assemblywoman just made. And the reason why I feel that way is because she's factually correct. Let's go back, Andrew, and I know you remember this, but for the audience's point of view, the contentious general election. Mm-hmm. Trump was trying to bait the outgoing president. Obama, who's known as no drama Obama, would not take the bait. He tried to remove himself as a partisan until the final days of the campaign, when he made numerous stops for Hillary Clinton and ended the campaign with the Clinton family in Philadelphia at that big, huge rally that we all remember. But any step that, okay, first of all, would we be having this conversation if Hillary Clinton won the election? I don't think the intensity would be here.
Oh, I'm sure it wouldn't be as intense.
Right. So remember, everyone with any type of political judgment thought that Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in for the most part to win this election, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. And so Obama did not want to be seen, considering that she was his Secretary of State, he did not want to be seen as meddling in the election. What would we have the man do?
Well, okay, that's a great question. Explain to the country that the United States is under attack, a cyber attack from a foreign power looking to meddle in our elections. Didn't necessarily need to say to help Donald Trump or to hurt Hillary Clinton, but I mean,
everyone would have known
we were in such a
that it was to
hyper-partisan
help
spot anyway.
Donald Trump. It would have been the subject of week after week of Donald Trump attacking the president and Hillary and completely not talking about anything that was relevant, whether it was jobs or the things that he talked about in his campaign that resonated with some people. He would have spent the entire time accusing the president of being in the pocket of his Secretary of State and basically subverting U.S. intelligence for a political goal. I think you're stepping back and you are forgetting how incredibly contentious and toxic that campaign was.
Oh, I'm not forgetting that. I'm just, I'm just considering how damaging this attack on the United States was, and the fact that it was an attack on the United States.
Andrew, you're an expert on the last election. What was Hillary Clinton's Achilles heel the entire campaign? What was the number one issue against her?
It was the email stuff. And
the email. Yeah. So why would a fellow Democrat who was his primary opponent in 2008, and they had a fierce rivalry, and Bill Clinton helped elect the first black president, and now it was payback time for Obama to help Hillary Clinton, why would he reinforce the image of Hillary Clinton's email situation by playing into this Russia?
Let me answer your question with a question. Can you think of another time the United States has been attacked where the president hasn't come out and with a full throat said we're under attack and we need to take these responses?
And I know your subject is about President Obama, but we are under attack, and President Trump hasn't said a damn thing about it. Excuse my French.
And we're about to get to that part of the story.
But don't leave him out of this.
I have no intention of doing so, but I want to make sure that we cover both sides of this because.
But to answer your question, in this modern day of presidencies, to answer your question directly, I think on any given day, any president of the United States receives so much information that can be so damaging within the country, and they have to use their personal discretion as to what to inform the American people of, which oftentimes is not much, to keep normal life going on,
I get it.
and what part to keep private. I think that Obama did not want to ring the alarm bell. He did not want to give Trump an advantage by talking about Putin and thus reinforcing Hillary's email problem. And at the end of the day, I think that this president felt that he was doing the right thing, removing himself from the attacks.
I get that argument. I do. I would just point out sometimes alarm bells ring when there's an alarm.
Yeah,
it's
true.
not just.
It's fair. I think it's a fair discussion.
Okay, and now for the other part of the discussion, we're going to shift from looking back on what did or didn't or should or shouldn't have happened last year, and now we're going to focus on what to do now to prevent this from happening again. A big worry from former FBI Director James Comey. He was crystal clear on this point during a Senate testimony last month.
It's not a Republican thing or a Democratic thing. It really is an American thing. They're going to come for whatever party they choose to try and work on behalf of, and they're not devoted to either in my experience. They're just about their own advantage, and they will be back.
They will be back. So this morning, Kellyanne Conway, counselor to President Trump, was on CNN, and her answers reveal rather a lot about the Trump administration's priorities when it comes to Russia and these Russian attacks. First, Conway was asked her response to the Washington Post report. Her answer was all politics.
What's the White House's response to this?
Well, the president has said previously, and we've got confirmation now from Jay Johnson, from Adam Schiff, from Dan Coates, from Jim Comey, from Mike Rogers, that there's no evidence of collusion, number one, and number two, that this didn't have an impact on the electoral result.
What the report was about, but no collusion and didn't affect vote totals. So her first response is nothing to worry about here. Next, Conway was asked what the administration is doing to stop future attacks, and I warn you, her answer may leave you wanting to throw something at the TV.
What is the current White House doing about this?
Well, Allison, the president has said previously, and he stands by that, particularly as president-elect, that he would be concerned about anybody interfering in our democracy. We saw a lot of people interfering with our democracy by saying he couldn't win here at home.
So he said things, he's concerned, and people said Trump couldn't win the election, which to Conway is somehow on the same plane as the Russians influencing our election. So the CNN anchor asked her again and again.
My question for you is, what is the White House, what is President Trump now doing to prevent Russia from doing this again?
Well, this report is new, and we'll discuss it with him later, but he's been very clear on the record that he believes in any type of numbers of measures to make sure that democracy flourishes and that our voter integrity is intact.
Right. Such
he, in fact, has an entire commission on that.
Against Russia, what is he doing specifically to try to stop this?
Allison, I realize that we just like to say the word Russia, Russia to mislead the voters, and I know that CNN is aiding and abetting this nonsense as well, but you've asked him the same question 3 times now, and I'm answering it.
And you're not answering it, Kellyanne.
Yes, I am. He's the president of the United States.
And what's he doing?
He has said very clearly that he wants the voter integrity and the ballot integrity to be protected.
And what
because
action
against
is he
any
taking?
type of interference at this very moment, at this very second.
Yes.
Oh, yes, because we have nothing to say about Russian collusion or affecting the electoral outcome.
Kellyanne,
Those rabbit holes did not bear fruit.
Kellyanne, I don't understand what you're doing in terms of trying to talk about collusion.
I've answered the question 4 times.
You haven't
answered the
told us
question 4
what
times.
action is the White House doing to stop Russian interference in elections?
The White House the president has met with his national security team many times. He has an initiative or a commission on voter integrity, and he himself has used the power of the bully pulpit to express his resistance towards any type of outside interference.
So they haven't done anything. That voter integrity commission she was talking about is run by the voter ID guy from Kansas, so that's not about Russia. And the only other answer from Conway was about things the president has said. And sadly, that non-action totally jives with something else that James Comey said during his Senate testimony.
Did the president, in any of those interactions that you've shared with us today, ask you what you should be doing or what our government should be doing or the intelligence community to protect America against Russian interference in our election system?
I don't recall a conversation like that.
Never.
No.
Do you find it odd?
Not with President Trump.
Right.
I attended a fair number of meetings on that with President Obama.
Assemblywoman, sounds like we're not doing anything to stop the next attack from coming.
It's very disheartening. It really is. You know, it's such an insult to the American democracy that Russia would interfere, that there is widespread unanimity that this occurred and that it will continue to occur, according to Comey, and I believe him on this. And there does not seem to be a plan. No action has been taken. No steps of articulating how unacceptable this is. And really a disbelief that the intelligence community brings valued information to the president such that they should be meeting. I find it very, very upsetting and profoundly, I would say, really unpatriotic.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to offend the institution of the presidency of the United States, but Andrew, and I'm serious when I say this, we don't attack our allies, right? Meaning people in life. Mm-hmm. We're friends, so we're not going to attack each other, right?
Not on camera.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is Russia's actions benefited Donald Trump in the election. So why would he criticize them? You would think, for the sake of the American people, that the president would at least put a good face on this and say something.
You're too cynical, though. He has an obligation to either do it publicly or do something privately. He has an obligation regardless of the politics. And even if you criticize Obama for not doing enough, he spoke obviously privately about what he could do. He considered it. It does not appear from her answers that this subject is on the list of things he's doing. Maybe he can't do it publicly, but I think voters of all stripes demand that something be done.
And let's keep in mind, as I'm watching Kellyanne, and there's a reason why Kellyanne Conway makes a lot of money, because she's very good at protecting her boss, who in this case happens to be the President of the United States. What else do you want her to say? If you're asked directly, what is the President doing? And if there's no answer to the question, what could she possibly say? But I want you to keep this in mind. During the campaign, when then candidate Trump urged Russian spies or technology people to come forward and release dirt on Hillary Clinton. Remember that?
Yeah.
So he actively called for this on the campaign trail. Everyone has the tape.
So is it just that the Trump administration doesn't care about this? Is it that they're convinced that somehow this will undermine the legitimacy of his win? People will somehow think that he wouldn't have won if it hadn't been for the Russian collusion or the Russian action, so he doesn't want to get involved in it? Is it is it Dominic's theory that they're, Putin's my ally now, so I'm not going to do anything that might cast him in a bad light?
I can't speak about that. I do think that until the Republicans in the House and in Congress put tremendous pressure on the president to see it differently, that he will continue to play to his base of supporters who think he's doing the right thing by this subject. So I think when the results of the investigations, either the House and the Senate investigation or the independent investigation come out, that's going to be a challenge. But short of that, without political pressure to change his approach, and that has to come from the Republicans in the House and Senate, I think he's going to play to his base.
And let's go back to that poll that we just had up, because that is the percentage of people from different parties who believe that Russia interfered in the election. Not collusion, nothing like that. It's just interfered. And you can see it's independents are fairly well mixed. Democrats believe that Russia did. Republicans only 26%. I guess that's why Republicans in Congress aren't putting more pressure on this White House. I mean, you would think if there was a rally around the flag issue, it would be protecting the United States from an attack.
Not when it means sacrificing your own guy at the top of the ticket. They being defined as Republicans in this case, just as if it were Obama or any other Democrat, are going to rally around the president, and they're going to hold on as long as they can until they see the handwriting on the wall that this is trouble based on polling, and that they may have to sacrifice him, or at least become, as the Assemblywoman just alluded to, become more direct in terms of their criticism against the president. But I mean, Andrew, I mean, I almost don't know how do you put this, because this is a president that benefited from all of this. And any investigator that tries to look into this, anyone, Preet Bharara, fired, Comey, fired, and now he's threatening, or the possibility of looking at firing the independent counsel here, or the independent investigator. So you do the math.
If this is personal for Trump, if this is somehow, hey, this might undermine my credibility or undermine my victory.
That's what you say. I think it goes much further than that.
Why hasn't somebody gotten up to his ear and been like, you know what, Russia could always support your opponent next election. They could work against you just as easily as they worked for you.
I don't think anyone is too good getting in his ear. I mean, it's one of the problems. Seriously, you need a group of people around who are mature, experienced adults as President of the United States to advise you on what is best. You make your own judgment at the end. You're elected to do so. I don't think people get to him. I think that's one of the problems with the tweeting. That's his voice speaking, and it's not curtailed. It doesn't serve him well. And I think on this, you do need grown-ups in the room to say, you know what, this is a serious threat to the United States.
Call it a hunch, but I suspect we will be revisiting this topic on the show in the days
I know you got to move on, but the key words that the Assemblywoman just said does not serve him well. Why would you tweet, Comey better hope or pray that there are no audio recordings, and then make the American people wait for 41 days when you know there's no recording? Why would you do that? Because he acted what he felt was in his best interest at that moment, even though it was against his long-term best interest.
Save that topic. We're getting to that in about 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about that.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a break. Up next, when state issues hit home locally. The legislative session is over in Albany, but some of what didn't get done could have big impacts on local communities. We'll recap some of the lingering questions Albany left behind next.